This is my review of Avatar 2, The Way of Water. And I will say, I'm just really bitter that when I go, there's nothing that comes up for me to ride in this world. The closest thing is a hoverboard, and that's not my thing. It's not my journey. Hello. Yeah. So this is my first film review that I've ever posted publicly, and not all of them are contentious, but this one is. And I just come along for the ride. So I know Avatar's been out for over a month now. It was released on December 16th, I believe. Let me verify. So you don't come at my neck, you irascible scoundrels. Just kidding, I love you. Yep, December 16th, and how's that for memory? I saw the film a couple weeks ago. I saw the movie a couple weeks ago. If you know that distinction, you know. And basically, I decided to wait. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do this, but I decided to wait to review it because I just really wanted to have my thoughts well thought. I wanted to have a deep thought about it. Deep thoughts, you know? None of this superficial thinking or capitalist thinking that a lot of the other reviews are perpetuating. Let's just dive into it. Let's go. I know all the media headlines are saying Avatar is a box office success, right? It's amounted over about 2 billion at this point. That's factual. However, I'd like to deepen the discourse regarding this film a little bit. It's horrible that I even have to say this, but capitalistic success does not determine something's worth, value, or effectiveness in a holistic view. All it reflects is one small facet of society that is a controlled game of propaganda. So here's my take on the movie. Before I jump into it, I just want to say this is how I structure my film reviews, and over the years, being a film student, having a media crit background and a narrative ethics background, you know, I'm trying to just kind of keep doing what was done amongst peers in film school. We give our educated opinion. This is subjective, I know, but this is my opinion. Take it or leave it. There are two things I really try to look at, maybe three things. Three things I really try to look at when ingesting media to discern if what I'm ingesting is good for me, right? We do it with food, we do it with people in our lives. It's all about boundaries, empowered thought. So the first thing that I look at is the hypodermic needle model. Let me read the definition here. The hypodermic needle model suggests that the media injects its messages straight into the passive audience. This passive audience is immediately affected by these messages. The public essentially cannot escape from the media's influence and is therefore considered a sitting duck. Whether we are conscious of it or not, we are sitting ducks when ingesting media. It's the thought process, the evaluation, the subjective analysis, and our determined, discerned conclusions that then empower us to become active ducks, for lack of a better dictum. The second thing I look at is the Bechdel test. I know the Bechdel test is very trite, but it's trite for a reason. And I don't look at it in all things because men are a part of our society. They aren't going anywhere. I don't hate men. I think people have behavioral issues and are not aware of their impact on people, and we could go through a whole 2-hour dissension into the pits of society, but we're not gonna do that. We're not. Anyway, the usual criteria of the Bechdel test are 1, at least 2 women are featured, 2, that these women talk to each other, and 3, that they discuss something other than a man. More than one woman is featured in Avatar. Do they talk to each other? Yes. Do they discuss something other than a man? Maybe like once. Considering the entire plot surrounds two very grown men fighting to their deaths. Spoiler. I think it's safe to say that a lot of these conversations don't consist of much else. So no, this movie does not pass that test. The third thing that I use to measure the quality of the piece is the ethical impact of it, which we will get into. So let's begin. The reason I waited 3 weeks to do this was because I wanted to forget things. I wanted to have sort of a summarized response to Avatar 2: Way of Water. And I didn't want it to be super, super detailed beyond the key hits, the key points. When I watch a film in the theater, I go to the theater because that is what you do when you watch a movie and a film, okay? But you can also watch it at home. At your own risk. Just kidding. Understand that's a whole nother conversation regarding access and the economy. How I measure a film's value while I'm viewing it in the theater. I'm a layperson too. Basically, I monitor my pulse. Right now it's pretty consistent. During Avatar, it was through the roof. I was sweating. So I was in fight or flight the entire time, so there was no way I was going to receive anything of value that would contribute to my healing or the healing of the patrons in the theater or the mass collective. Case in point, an individual's HPA axis is triggered by different things. The fight or flight response is all relative for each individual. However, based on what I witnessed in this theater, I would say it's safe to say everyone was bugging. How many times I felt the urge to leave? At least 5. How many times did I go to the bathroom? I went twice, and that's a record. I go to a film and I do not go to the bathroom. That's one of my rules. I will risk getting a UTI so that the artists involved can feel respected and their work is viewed to completion. Because I need to see this thing through. Redemption, resolution is a huge part of the filmmaking process, and I have to give the artists involved and the filmmaker the decency, the respect of seeing their whole work through to make a fair assessment. Because things might be for the first 2 hours, but who knows? The third hour could really turn around. In the case of Avatar 2: The Way of Water, it didn't happen. I did not feel respected as a viewer, so I went to the bathroom twice. How many times did I shift in my seat? That's a big one. It was like a restless night's sleep, constantly. And it wasn't an issue, a structural issue with the seats in the theater. We'll just say that. How many times did I talk out loud? Probably after every other line, and I deeply apologize to who I saw the film with. Part of the reason I talked so much was the actual horrid absurdity of how bad the writing was. I was appalled. That cannot be repressed. It must be spoken about. And the people around me were commenting on it too, and they don't have a film background. They're outside of the industry, and they were noticing it was bad, and that's how you know, kids. That's how you know. How many times I looked around in the theater to watch other people, or to just stare at the corner, or to stare at the exit sign, or to count how many seats are in each row, and to observe the differences between each seat. Some stitching was coming off one seat. The other seat looked a little bit newer, like it had been replaced. I started to notice the temperature in the theater. I drowned out the soundscape and I dissociated. How many times I went on my phone. I will say there is a portion of the film that I won't reference because I couldn't tell you what happened during it because I was in a full text conversation with my friend. It was on silent and my screen light was down, and I don't think that I've ever done this during a movie in my life. It's usually do not disturb. Well, that's not true. I did it during Don't Worry Darling, but if you want to know what I think of that film, I can do a review of that, but I feel like it's gotten enough attention already. Let's break it down, you know? I just need to mentally prepare for this for a second. There was too much violence. Way too much violence. The ratio between valuable scenes that create hope or inspire faith or show something of substance within the Na'vi culture to how abusive and horrifically violent and gratuitous these invaders are, the sky people, was monumentally disproportionate. You need to have an appropriate ratio. Ethically speaking, and also for a successful story, you have to have an appropriate ratio. There was a child with their family, I think there were 2 children, in the theater, and they were walking around. Like, the children came up to say hi. They were completely disinterested in the movie. They started crying during the first act. You know something's wrong. And ended up finally convincing their parents to take them home. Their parents were really discouraged that this was not a family-friendly movie, even though it was advertised as such. Propaganda, false advertisement. And I said, good for you. Leave. And get your refund on the way out. Won't hurt anybody. You already made $2 billion. These children are traumatized from this movie. Wait, let me look up the rating. It's PG-13. Okay, well, these kids were like 5, 6, 7. Yeah, this movie should have been rated R. It really should have been. Next point, the writing / plot efficacy. I give it a 0 because I really don't understand what this movie was saying that hasn't already been done before. I understand big studio films or box office movies are historically, reputationally known to have less creative freedom, but a film movie of this stature has a responsibility, an ethical responsibility to not waste this opportunity, especially looking at the current landscape in our country and world of what's going on. We don't need more violence. We don't need more despair or despondence. We don't need more conflict. Show someone working through issues with their minds and their hearts and their spirits effectively, wholeheartedly, from a place of love and solution. The amount of times that I heard the Na'vi hybrids say bruh, bro, or talk like they were an e-boy from middle America or the coastal cities or wherever because social media is turning people into homogenous robots. It was horrible. Absolutely horrible. It almost felt like neo-colonialism, dare I say. We'll get to that more later. Yeah, piss poor writing. Piss poor writing. The fact that I really felt that a child around age 12 wrote the script at parts, except for the ending when Jake Scully's narration was all right, but it wasn't anything original. The ending part of his narration, again, can't even tell you what he said. So I think after I heard bro, enough, anything of substance really left its mark. That's just what happens when you descend to the depths of Dante's Inferno. Just a modicum of something substantial makes a huge impact. Maybe that's what they were going for, but I don't think so. I think they were going for the box office. Okay, well anyway, the toxic relational dynamics infected by earthly behavior, aka abuse, it was horrible. I was looking at this disgusting mid-century nuclear dynamic that is so overdone. We are better as humans. We are capable of treating each other with kindness and love and depth. This is disgusting, actually. A horrible example of dynamics and functions. I know this movie was not trying to unpack the legacy of abuse like our homegirl Succession. However, it inadvertently showcased what subtle abusive dynamics look like. Because it was sort of mindlessly done, in a way it glorified that behavior and those dynamics and normalized them. Beautiful SFX. Beautiful. This movie is a technical achievement, a cinematic, historical achievement. I will hand that to James Cameron. I will. Everything else, however, I am so tired of this narrative. We need to flee Earth. We need to flee Earth. Earth is dying. I'm aware of climate change, folks, but what if we changed? What if we changed the way that we live and the way that we treat our body and others and our Earth? What if? What if? I mean, was Greta not enough of a wake-up call for you guys? I would love to see a movie that gives us solutions to saving Earth. They're happening everywhere right now. We need more of them, a hell of a lot more, and it needs to move faster. But that's on y'all and me, each and every one of us. And just continuing to churn out mass marketed media that perpetuate the idea that we have no other choice than to run is very shallow. It is. So let's save Earth. Yeah? Okay. I see the attempt in the narrative to show that, you know, let's all get along. Let's not fight. But they're just telling it. They're not showing it. They're showing that violence is the answer to conflict. Violence is the solution. The entire movie was war, and I did not know I was getting myself into that. And I didn't rewatch the first Avatar right before seeing this purposely, because I wanted to see Avatar 2 without preconceived notions. I just wanted to approach it with the small memory I have of it from 2009. I see the attempt, but it's far outweighed by the violence. Majority does rule. And if the majority of scenes are saying or showing a message that creates a coagulation of a certain theme, message, tone, etc., that narrative will win. That narrative will be the resounding narrative. Just the way it happens. Look at history. I'm not even gonna assess music or cinematography because, to be honest with you, I did not notice the soundscape. There was so much else going on. No offense to the mixers and the sound team. And as far as cinematography goes, personally, I can't judge that because I don't know how to construct a film like this and how to measure that. So that's up for someone else to debate. Directing, that's another thing. Technically, I think James Cameron did a good job. It seemed like a lot of the talent had the support they needed to do the physical labor that was required of them to bring this story to life. Shout out Kate Winslet for setting a record of holding your breath underwater. Also, shout out Sigourney Weaver. I don't think this is James Cameron. This is Sigourney. Being in her 70s and moving like she was 17. That's craft. Yeah, so that's a great transition to the acting review. I would say, again, it's hard to discern because of the special effects changing the facial structures of everyone. But if I'm looking at it in terms of these are real people and this is the culminating impact, I would say some better than others. And I'm not gonna pick it apart per actor or character, but this part has to do more with writing and directing. Really? Did Neytiri's one response or majority of her responses need to be hysteria, immediate hysteria? Women are more complex than that. A woman, a native woman, a Na'vi woman in this scenario, a Na'vi person, a Na'vi creature, a sentient Na'vi creature in this position has more vastness and complexity than that. Do we really have to go into the female hysteria, James? Do we? Again and again, over and over. SNL made fun of it.
Our queen is back. Our queen, Neytiri.
Well, screaming lady alert, here we go.
Oh, God, here we go.
They come for our land.
Okay, Neytiri, hon.
They come for our people.
Okay, all right, hon.
We must kill them.
Don't start crying.
That's any indication that something's abhorrent. The most frustrating thing about this to me is that, yes, it is such a technical accomplishment in filmmaking, and they are wasting this opportunity to say nothing important or original at all, at least not in a constructive or solution-oriented manner for the greater society. If you look at what's going on in our socio-political climate right now, this movie, does not help us. It's just more of, it's more of bad. Like Pharrell Williams says, there's a light and dark army. Which side are you on? If you know, you know. It's also heartbreaking to see actors who have been outspoken in regards to injustices in the industry and the world at large participate in such a narratively irresponsible movie for our culture. I understand they want to make a living. I understand they want to be part of this historical cinematic achievement and whatnot, but that's egotism at the end of the day. None of us are exempt from egotism. The effort to overcome egotistical thinking is part of a spiritual practice that each individual is responsible for developing for the greater good of their own consciousness and the world at large. It's incumbent for us to do our best to think deeper than that when sharing stories. It's incumbent. That's the only way we can, through media, change society for the better. It starts there. They are culpable. We all are culpable. We all make mistakes. We all do the best we can with what we have. But if we don't start to think deeper collectively and individually in this industry, we won't make progress. And the foundation from which we initiate our thought, our intentions, and how they influence impact are not going to ascend to a higher level of thinking. The questions that you ask influence the future of our society. The actions that you take influence the quality of our society. I know people like this, but I'm not sure that they remind themselves every day of it in every scenario that they are existing in. And I think it's gotten to a point where we all have to. We have to consider every single choice that we're making and the ethical impacts of them. And I know that's tiring, it's exhausting, but like, it's how things will get better. But let's get to a place culturally where we can discuss these issues, these mistakes, you know? Cancel culture is only part of the progress to solution to a better society. Cancel culture anesthetizes the problem. It pauses the healing cycle for everyone involved. We can't just redact or censor or pause and walk around. It's just another iteration of the old way of shoving things under the rug. We're calling it out, but we're not offering solution. Where's the resolution? Where's the third act for everyone in the world? That's how we heal. That's how we move forward for the better. If we could just keep talking about the hard stuff, but learn radically, own radically, change radically, and not repeat it. The other things I'm gonna pepper in are, once again, white people are at the center of Native culture. White people are at the center of narratives related to Native cultures. White people are disguised as natives. White people are hurting natives. Tell me this isn't a narrative almost condoning neocolonialism on a galactic level. Tell me. I'll wait. I will wait. Also, Edie Falco set up to be this military genius maven, and then poof, she's gone. There was no explanation, and her plotline, her storyline, her character arc was replaced with actual dumbasses who fight exotic whales and kill them and get their arms forcefully amputated in the process and then get annihilated. So I understand there was a little bit of a karma has its way fiddled in there, but for the whales, you're giving the most mercy to the whales. Believe me, I'm all for helping the animals, but letting the predator live at the end, yet killing the whale hunters? What the f? Anyway, that's all I care to extend towards this debacle. And I will never get the image of this arm being amputated out of my mind. I'm really glad that the children left the theater before then, and I'm glad that there are restrooms at the theater as havens of escape. I just want my $15 back, and I would like the conversation regarding this film to go deeper. And other films too. Movies, box office hits. Anywho, this was an experiment. I don't know if I'll do more of these. I definitely would do more of films that I think are doing good for this world. bolster them up, illuminate them. This is my review of Avatar 2, The Way of Water. And I will say, I'm just really bitter that when I go, there's nothing that comes up for me to ride in this world. The closest thing is a hoverboard, and that's not